Nuuspod, die tuiste vir Afrikaanse stories agter die nuus.
I must tell you, your Afrikaans sound much better than my Free State English. Listen, at 53, I have come to peace with my Free State English. And I always tell people, if you, if you have any issue with my Free State English, you shouldn't listen to me.
You know what? There's certain times when my Afrikaans just comes right.
Yeah.
Okay, that was in the army, because it's a way better language for giving instructions and shouting at people than English. Okay. When I'm out Buddhist, when you're around the braai, when you've had a few drinks, my Afrikaans comes good. My vocabulary just reappears. And my wife's a New Zealander, and she says to me, she says, how the hell do you remember words like amper and aarde and reken? And I said, I don't know, they just come back like that. I love it. So, you know, there's a guy, Frans Cronje.
Yes.
And he was head of Institute of Race Relations for, I think, 20 years or so. He's a very smart guy. He's a political tactician. And he's now got the Strategic Research Foundation. He's doing all these deep polls into voters, non-voters, ANC. You know. And he said a very amusing thing to me the other day. I had dinner with him, and he said, one of the many, many things that his research has shown, he says that a lot of the sort of black population in South Africa see the white population in two groups, Afrikaners and everyone else. And they don't like the everyone else. They like the Afrikaners because at least they know what they're getting straight up, the men and women of the earth. And he said, the thing is, Rob, you are seen as one of the Afrikaners because I'm just telling it like it is. So I hope you welcome me as a
and just, you've got the country in an uproar, man. You are
good.
You are. That's why I decided to have my own talk to you.
No, I'm honored. I really am honored. I mean, the only other Afrikaans podcast I spoke to, but it was way back, was Willem Petter.
Oh yes,
way back when he was doing his quite a very intellectual, hardcore podcast. But he's I don't think he's doing them at the moment.
No, he's still doing it. He's on Facebook. He's got a very, very big following. More conservative, even right sometimes from my perspective. So it's not I'm not finger pointing. I'm just stating what I see. But he's got a big following, very big following.
He's a good guy. I see quite a lot of him. We speak all the time. Help him on his taxpayers union, and you know.
Yeah, I also think so, man. You know, in South Africa we have this thing to classify each other as either right or left or wrong or liberal, and then you want to cut other people out of your life, other opinions out of your life because it doesn't resonate with what you think. And I think it's a wrong thing that we do, man, because you are just dividing people more in this way rather than getting them together in their different flavors.
So I try to define myself. I said, where am I on the spectrum? Okay. I'm a minimalist, so I only wear blue and white. I don't have watches, jewelry. My wife never wanted jewelry. We like three things. We like big houses, lots of money in the bank, and great experiences. Okay, that's it. Seriously, I mean, if I point to the camera around at our house, we have a very big house.
Yeah.
But there's no vases, there's no books, we don't collect anything. And there's nothing of value, you know. But I try to define myself. And at one point I said, I'm a Judeo-Christian conservative libertarian. So a Judeo-Christian conservatarian. I thought that's pretty good. And then one ANC communist said, this is Andile guy, whatever his last, I can't even pronounce his last name. Sorry. He said, this is a capitalist activist. And I said, yes, I am. I'm a capitalist activist. I love that. I accept that. So there we go. If you want to define me, you can define me like that.
Can I tell you a story? I was an Ingenieur before I became a journalist. before they chased me from church, and I had to become a journalist. So what happened is I actually changed my way of thinking about faith, and specifically the Christian faith. So there I was, after I resigned, in a time as if it is a vacuum, because I don't really know what I'm thinking now. I don't know really what I'm believing now. You know, like Chris Christopherson's never knowing if believing, sort of thing. So I was hanging around and hovering around, and part of that is a very, very liberal get-together church of non-believers and other radical faith seekers that got together under Abel. What was Abel's fun? I think it's Pinar. And they got together there in Pretoria. So they offered me a position of taking up their youth group, very small group of children that I had to talk to every Sunday while the unfaithful mothers and fathers sit and listen what Abel is telling them. Now I'm talking to these children and I'm trying to find out what they think in life. So I start with the one. He says, no, he's a Christian, a very staunch Christian. Next to him sits his brother. He says, no, I'm an atheist, and he's a very staunch atheist. 16, 17 years old, man. I say, yes, like, man, I cannot believe you guys are labeling yourselves at such a young age. Next to him sits his the third brother. I said, but okay, you tell me what you are. He says, no, I'm a free-thinking, liberal Buddhist.
Who is the oldest and who is the youngest brother? I love the story, by the way. I love it. What a great family. What a great family. Eh?
Yeah, but and their mother and father, they are just seekers. They don't know where they are.
So, you know, when I look at faith and religion, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure about God, and I don't think there's an afterlife. I think you've got to be a good person in this life. You get one chance, you know, pass the goodness forward. But when I say to all different religious people, I say, do you agree with the three most powerful words in any language? Okay. God is love. They all agree. They all go, that's the basis of our religion. And I go, well, if God is love and God is within you, then how did you take that and end up where you are now, you know, with mullahs and lunatic Muslims and crazy Orthodox, you know, Catholics? And it's like humanity messed up a good story. And I think God is love. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's within you.
Yeah, it's true. I think they messed up a very, very good story. And that is what ended my sins in church. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. It's just a story that I wanted to tell you when you labeled yourself just now. So I want to talk to you. Well, let's start off with the labeling. Rob, how do I pronounce your surname? Is it Hersov?
It's Hersov. I've only found out in the last month, believe it or not, where the name came from and the derivation of it. Okay, in the last month.
Really? Okay, but tell us.
No one knows the story. Okay, so my mother's
this is breaking news.
This is breaking news.
Okay, right.
It's not big breaking news, but my mother's family are from Scotland and England, and they were all British Army in the Indian Rebellion, and they all ended. You know, they came out here. Sydney, Ralph, George, Herbert came out to South Africa, and that's how my mum's family came. You know, Natal, etc., etc. Okay, my father's family. This is the bit that I didn't know. Okay, a month ago, a man called Alan Hirsch, out of Durban. Do you know Hirsch's?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's his business. He called my father up and he said, Basil Hersov. My dad's 96 years old. He's Basil Hersov. I think we're related. And my dad said, okay, let's meet. And he and my dad met, and I met Alan 3 days ago. First time ever, okay? And he explained where the family came from. And the family was originally German Jewish. Countries changed ownership. And then they ended up in Latvia, then Lithuania, and then they escaped and came to South Africa. And there were 3 brothers. One brother went to America, and their last name was Bloomberg. 2 brothers came to South Africa on coal ships. They come on a coal ship and then they bring their family later. And my great-grandfather name was, they were all Hershovitz. One came Bloomberg, one came Hersov, and one went Hirsch, and all related. But Alan Hirsch's great-grandfather was the chief rabbi of the South African Defense Force. So on all sides of the family, Jewish, non-Jewish, English, we have military. And so so don't fight with me. Anyway, that's, unheard of story. Our original name was Hershovitz. So,
listen, talking about labeling, I'm actually glad that we started off with this labeling thing, because I read on News 24 an opinion piece by some Bruce Robertson. Rob Hersov, a graceless charlatan and patronizing paper tie.
I think this is an unemployed Hilton old boy that got probably paid or encouraged to write a nasty article. And I'm not on social media, so I'm not on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Never have been. Okay.
Yes.
So I live in this oblivion. I say what I believe. I tell the truth, and I don't read the comments of people who want to kill me, who hate me. But that article I think was encouraged by some lightweight journalist called Adrian Basson of News 24. Okay, because he super tweeted it later. So I think, and they attacked the man, not the message.
Yeah.
And Bruce Robertson's cousin lives in Cape Town, and he's too embarrassed to come to lunches where I'm at, and he's so embarrassed about his cousin, and he should be. So we shouldn't give this guy airtime. He's some pathetic loser in Natal, a surfer.
No, I don't want to give him airtime. I just wanted to get your comment on that, because
I just ignored it. I ignored it. But everyone attacks the man, not the message, which must mean the message is getting through.
It's a thing in South Africa. When you get into debates, that people attack your personality.
Yeah.
When they are not able to argue further.
And the funny thing is, you can attack me as being born rich, privileged, white, whatever you want, but I go up front and say that. I say, the first thing I say in most interviews is, I was born into one of the wealthiest families in South Africa. I was born lucky, and I was given every privilege in the world. So you can't really attack me on that, because I'm admitting to it. I'm saying It is what it is. So then you can say, well, he lives overseas. I don't. I've come back. Oh, he complains and he doesn't invest. Sorry, I'm building an airport outside of Cape Town. It doesn't get more crazy than that. Okay, airport. And I insulted the Minister of Transport and the head of AXA. I call them morons. So if you want to attack the person, it's not that easy anymore, because I just say, yes, that's true. I'm white, privileged, whatever you want, true. Yeah. But I'm telling the truth. The ANC are useless.
Well, now that you say it, I can actually see what you are saying, because it is a very, very long, nearly in-depth article, something that's very unusual, even online, giving so much information and so much opinion in a journalist.
And they talk about business. They said, "Oh, he failed in business." Yeah, I've had failures. I say that in my speech. I said, I built one of the biggest sports media internet businesses in Europe, 1998 to 2001. $100 million, 300 employees, and it failed. I had a big failure. I tell it up front. So you want to say I had a business failure? I've had a few business failures. I'm an entrepreneur investor, but I've had success too, and I've made my own money. And then people go, oh, he's a trust fund kid. Well, guess what? My father's 96, my mother's 89, and they're in good shape, and I haven't inherited anything. So I might become one, but I'm not yet at age 62. So just, attack me, whatever. I don't care. I'm going to keep saying what I say because I believe in it. I really do.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Well, I don't. I mean, everybody knows by now, that you have a disdain in the ANC, and like me, you want them to get just freaking footsack, get away, man. I'm at the point that I want to start a revolution, man. I want to grab my garden fork and push someone against the wall and say, "Do you fucking work, man?"
It's not just you, huh? It's not just you. It's the urban population of South Africa has already decided the ANC are useless. That they know that the DA can do a much better job at governance. So Frans Cronje's polls show that the urban South African of all colors believes that the DA knows how to govern a country and the ANC doesn't. So if we had an election today, just in the urban areas, the ANC would lose. They'd be under 30%. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, so let's go there then, to give some sort of a different angle on our conversation about the DA. Because I have a feeling that the media in South Africa is unfair against the DA, as if they really want to look for something that's wrong, instead of seeing a party that's really able to do a much better job.
The only adults in the room are the DA. That's an expression my wife uses. She goes, Rob, why do you keep talking about a coalition of the good and getting the coalition together? You should just say, vote DA. They're the only guys in town. Now, to be fair, VF Plus, Corner Mulder, excellent. Until recently, until like a few days ago, I would have said Action SA, they're doing a super job, but the wheels seem to be coming off. Carter, to be fair, Carter actually have worked as good partners in the coalition, and COPE and AECDF and whatever. But the only adults in the room today are the DA. They've proven they know what they're doing. They've proven they can govern. They have a deep bench of people. It's not just one human being.
Yes.
There's John Steenhuisen, and then there are 50 other very, very good people. Every day working hard, every day doing the right job, filling in potholes, trying to improve the country. I think everyone should just suck it in and vote DA and give money to the DA and just get on with it. I really do.
That's our only saving grace at the moment. If you look at the history of where they do their things, so I really believe it at the moment. But as you say, the other parties as well, I really have deep respect for someone like Peter Groenewald. And
I've met
Mulder.
Yeah.
But looking governing wise, realistically wise, that's our only saving grace.
It's only saving grace. We should get the DA up to 30+%. Just get behind them and push it through. And then, they're the lead in the coalition. They are anyway.
I think you say an important thing, and yes, let's get them to 30%.
Plus.
I'm going to work for that now. Yeah. Rob, but like I said, you already told the world what you think of the ANC. You told us how to save Eskom, how to turn around Eskom. Let's focus in this conversation on how to turn around South Africa. Is it possible still?
So I'm writing something down so I can remember to say a little bit later. Okay, so it takes 10 years to build a good business. If you just look at the statistics of the last 50 years across the sensible world, it takes 10 years to build a good business. Now, my wife started a business 12 years ago. It's pivoted, gone different directions, needed funding, ran into trouble. 12 years later, it's a big profitable business, or small profitable business based out of America. Just whatever way you look at it, you can get lucky. It can happen like, boom, a tech company, but it takes 10 years. It takes 6 months to destroy a business. You put the wrong management team in, the wrong leaders, make the wrong decisions, bang, you destroy it in 6 months. What's happened to the state-owned enterprises, if they were private businesses, they would be bankrupt. They'd be out of business because the debt massively exceeds the assets. They're not profitable. They're badly run. They're employment agencies. They're not businesses. Okay, SAA was an employment agency. We should never see SAA again. Eskom should be gone. But because they're government entities, the taxpayer money keeps them alive and allows the ANC to continue, and their mafia to keep breaking and stealing. And by the way, they break so they can steal.
Yes.
If you can have a functioning democracy, it's very hard to steal. But if you break a turbine by putting the wrong coal in, if you break systems, if you create strikes, you break things up, you can then steal. That's what's happening. So can it be fixed? Well, it's going to take 5 years to turn some of these state-owned enterprises around. The best way is just privatize them. Just get rid of them and let the private sector deliver. We know the private sector can deliver power easily. There's tons of money that wants to come. And I'm just a bit bored of renewable solar and wind. We've got coal, we've got uranium. We should bring in small modular nuclear reactors. The private sector will fund it. Why do we need the government to pretend that they know how to do it? So it'll take 5 years of hard work and a lot of money and a lot of skill to fix the country. But if the ANC get in 2024, that means another 5 years of destruction and it's over. I really mean we're going to have economic collapse. And I had a conversation with Alan Hirsch, funny enough, when I met him. And he said, but look at South Korea. And I said, but before you tell me about South Korea and Rwanda is a good example because in 1994, we had our democratic elections. And in 1994, they had a genocide. Same year. Look at them now. Look at us now. We've gone backwards. They've gone forward. So unfortunately, if we want to fix this country and we don't get the ANC out in 2024, we need complete economic collapse and civil unrest. We need the country to burst into flames, and out of the flames come the phoenix. And in 20, 25 years' time, we have a South Korea. But we're going to have complete destruction to start again. And I'm telling you honestly my view, if we don't get ANC out in 2024, we're heading for complete economic collapse.
I've got this theory about such a collapse, which is not at all bad, because some of the best development stories comes from collapse.
Correct.
Some of the best businesses comes after collapse. But there will be a lot of institutions, a lot of people that will also collapse
in the process. Look at Germany and Japan. Second World War. I mean, there was barely a building standing in Germany. There was barely an industry left. Farming, all the horses and cows were dead. Look at it now. Look at Japan. It can be done. Ukraine is, getting completely destroyed. It'll rebuild quickly. If there's goodwill and human capital, this is the key. And the worrying thing is, we're losing a lot of our young human capital. Kids get a university degree and they just head overseas. Not just white kids. But I've always said they should. Why should they put up with this nonsense? Go overseas, get trained, get skills, and be ready to come home when we need you. Imagine if we got 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 of these extraordinary people that have gone overseas, either coming back or reinvesting in South Africa. We'll take off like a rocket again.
How do you handle if you accept this scenario? There's still the fact of a network of corrupt officials that is ingrained so deeply into the South African. What is the English word for that?
Yeah, the network,
the whole network.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be there for a long time. That vibe.
Yeah. So let's take. There's the municipalities. So there's the state-owned entities and municipalities that have these cadres and communists that are sitting there trying to get hold of the funding or the tenders to put them out to, people that can't deliver or their buddies. And then you've got business that is very quiet, and it's something I've complained about. And I'm using an example. I had a look at all the boards of directors of all the big companies, corporates in South Africa. Okay, ready for this one? On the board of Standard Bank, have a look at the board of directors, is a woman, Geraldine Fraser Moleketi, sitting on the board. She was part of the group 2005, 2008 that did the cadre deployment across South Africa. And it says in her bio, Communist Party. And she's sitting on the board of Standard Bank. So you can only imagine that when the board of directors say, we really need to stand up and do something about South Africa, you've got this person, a commie, sitting on the board of one of the biggest institutions in the country. They've got their evil network everywhere, and she's part of it.
It's like it's like going out and you say, hey, let's phone Susie, that girl that gets motherlessly drunk every time we go out, and make such a spectacle of herself and us. Let's phone her and come with. Let's ask her to come with us to the party. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So these big business people, the heads of the big corporations earn a salary and they earn equity. Okay, and they can be fired. They can be fired by the board or the shareholders. The shareholders have, most of these companies anyway, BEE, and they have people on the board who aren't necessarily loyal to the shareholders. They're loyal to the Communist Party, the ANC, or whatever. Okay. So these people are kind of cornered. They're trapped. They can speak out in their sector. They can say, grey listing, we have to fight this, blah, 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 in the finance sector. But it's very hard for Sim Shabalala, he's a good guy, by the way, or Jacko Marie, or any of those people, to say things that I'm saying, And I've been criticized because some people have said, Rob, you don't have 20,000 employees, a BE shareholder, and a Geraldine Fraser Moleketi on your board. You can say what you like. And that's true. But slowly people are starting to get a bit of spine. Gareth Ackerman and Jonathan Ackerman spoke up in the last 2 weeks. Well done them. Roel Koza, very strong words. Well done him. Neil Froneman, the best. But where is Adrian Gore? Where is, I can go on and on and on and on.
That's a question that I wanted to ask you when you mentioned the fact that the private sector should take over, because this is a subject that's not been discussed at length really at the moment. Is a private sector's role in what we have at the moment. And in the corruption, there's some of them that played their fair share in what we have at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean the international service providers like Bain and Company, McKinsey, careful of someone, I want to say the wrong word, SAP. These all happen to be international firms that have been part of the corruption and have been proven to be so. There are certain South African companies that have yet to come out that they've been very much part of the problem. And if you look at the people, individuals and companies that have funded the ANC, funded the DA, and funded Action SA, Harmony Gold is one of the major contributors to the ANC. Now, I'm going to find out why. Have they done that because they won some licenses? I'm sure there's something going on there we don't know. But I'm going to go down the list of the major contributors to the ANC over the last 10 years and ask a lot of questions of those. And by the way, I don't think very many companies are going to be funding the ANC anymore. Patrice Motsepe gives a lot of money to the ANC, but he gives money to the other two as well. But that's pathetic. That's hedging your bets. What good does that do for our country? And I'm a big fan of Patrice Motsepe, but, he's playing that game. And the other big excuse, by the way, is that business and politics shouldn't mix. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. And I'm using that word on your show. It's such an excuse for business in the Western world where things are pretty well organized. Fine. There's politics, lobbying, and then there's business. But in South Africa, we're going down the plug. There's no excuse for businesses to say, I'm not going to stand up. And there's no excuse for them not to give money to the DA. They've got to do it.
Okay. Let's go to if we manage to get rid of the ANC. There are people that say we can actually not afford to be without the ANC, arguing that to keep the peace, to keep the stability, you still need the ANC. What's your view on that?
Well, I don't agree with that. But Helen Ziller, who's vastly smarter than I am in politics, she's been hinting that, or saying that, maybe there's a coalition of the DA and the ANC that's the next step. And I've been saying that's nonsense. But France Cronje polls have proven she might be right. And let me give you the thesis here. People look back at 1994 to, let's say, 2003, when there was the Rainbow Coalition. Okay, there was Indians and blacks and whites and coloreds in positions, and everyone in every position was competent. The head of Eskom knew what they were doing about energy. The head of sport, minister of sport, knew sport. With experts in every area, and we had economic growth of 5 to 8%. The country was rocking along. And people remember those days, and they hark back to it. And Frans Cronje's, one of the most powerful messages from his polls of Ward 54 in Soweto is that people, and this is a majority of people interviewed, mostly black people, would accept a DA-ANC coalition where the DA ran all the key elements of government, in other words, governance, provision of services, but the ANC kind of kept them, behaving properly, whatever that means. So they don't want the Witbaas back again, but they know the ANC doesn't know how to run a country or any parts of the economy, and the DA does. So they kind of accept that combination. And I've got my head around to maybe that is something that could work. Because the other option is DA, Action SA, Carter, VF Plus, COPE, and then you have the little parties, with excess influence because they're the swing voters. And that's probably not a good thing. And I've moved away from that kind of coalition of 8 or 9 to the DA plus. And I hate to say the good part of the ANC, because I've always believed there is no good, but
I still
maybe, but maybe, I've met a few people, Omri Magagole, Katlego Mababola, who are disgusted with the ANC.
I'm trying to understand why someone with any integrity would decide to stay within the ANC.
Me too.
When you're in a company that does a couple of things wrong, it's understandable. But here you have an institution that is rotten right through. Why do you stay?
I agree. In my first speech ever, which was to 100 people at a business conference, the one that went mad, went viral, and threw me into this whole world of death threats and madness. I said in the first 2 minutes, anyone that still votes ANC is a moron. I used those words. And then I defined what a moron means. I went an adult with a mental age of 8 to 12. Mm-hmm. That was in the first 3 minutes of my speech. And that, I mean, a lot of people were angry with me. But I was right, and I still believe it. How can you, as you rightly say, is like, have any integrity or any brain whatsoever and vote for the ANC this time around? If you're an ANC person that believes in the good of South Africa, you should vote for someone else. Have a look at their mandates and say, oh, this is a better group. It's not a football team that you follow through thick and thin. It's the country we're talking about. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing to realize, because I don't. But it's a game, man. It is a game that they're playing. Look at this whole Johannesburg thing. The reasons that they offered why they want to overthrow the DA coalition metro. It's a game to them.
It's power, and power means money. If you're in power and you control the financial fire hose, you spray it to your friends. That's what it's all. They don't think the next generation. They just think now. And remember, when the English dispossessed the Afrikaners said, right, okay, we're going to sort ourselves out. We're going to build learning institutions, our own schools. We're going to expand our religion. We're going to have to become self-sufficient. We're going to have to look after ourselves, okay? That's what the Jews did. The Jews are a very powerful tribe like the Afrikaners that say, okay, well, let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. But the ANC came in as a liberation party and then have pretended they're a party of governors. They obviously have no idea how to govern, no idea whatsoever. And the sooner the voting population realizes, the better. Now, I have a solution.
Let's hear that.
Are you sitting down? So I made my speech. It went viral, okay? And there was a couple of months of hell. And the only reason I stayed sane was my father said to me, Rob, I've never been more proud of you for doing and saying what other people can't afford to do and say. And my wife said, well, maybe you shouldn't have used the word moron. But I'm so proud of you. I had people coming up to me on the street saying, can I take a selfie of all colors and races, at Engen, at Pick and Pay, that's the guy, and after about 2 months of hell, and I lost a lot of money, some deals I was doing fell apart, I said to myself, I'm now in, I might as well keep going. And so I put my foot down. I put my accelerator down, and I went hard. And my speeches have gone harder and harder. And I got to a point now, and I went on a podcast called Mac G, Podcast and Chill with Mac G, because Musi Maimane said, Rob, you've got a huge following, but you're missing, a big part of the sort of black population, and you should be on Mac G. I said, who's Mac G? Like most white guys, I don't know. He's huge. He's the biggest. He's a very cool guy. So he invited me on, and I said, yes, but I'm coming to your studio. It's look like a spaza shop. I turned up on my mum's golf, and they looked around, he and his team, said, where are the other people? I went, what are the people? He said, well, your security, your entourage. I said, I travel like this. I wear shorts, flip-flops, whatever. I'm a minimalist. I don't have fancy cars. So we did a 2-hour podcast. It's gone to 580,000 views in 3 weeks. And I now have a big following, okay, as a guy that tells the truth. But I thought to myself, I said, what do I do with that? I'm not on social media. I'm not trying to build. I'm not in politics. I don't need anything more in business. What am I going to do with this? And then the idea hit me. And I have launched a blockchain-based DAO, decentralized autonomous organization called newsouthafrica.org. So if you go to www.newsouthafrica.org, it's governance without government. We've got 15,000 signups in 10 days, and it's from across the board. Now you're going, what's this guy talking about? Your viewers are probably losing it now. I'm going, oh God, this guy's he's gone mad.
The other day.
And what it is let's take you take the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the American Constitution, the South African, and you smash them together with a bit of stoicism sprinkled on top. And you have the 15 principles that I've created with a lot of help from the Institute of Race Relations, Franz Cronje, Helen Ziller, and hundreds of others.
Yeah.
The 15 principles are non-racialism, based on merit, free market, capitalism, behave well. It's 15 principles you'd agree with. And assuming you subscribe to those and are not doing anything illegal, because the blockchain will reveal anything illegal, we've launched this DAO, this decentralized autonomous organization. And no one's in charge. There are no leaders. There are no positions. Everyone gets one vote. And we put forward ideas and campaigns that people vote on and then get funded. It's decentralized, it's autonomous, and it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing that's developing. Now, you don't have to be South African to join. You have to believe in the principles and believe in South Africa. Why
in a blockchain? That's the thing that confoculates me, because I mean, for a layman like me, I understand the blockchain to be related to crypto.
Okay, so I'll explain it. And by the way, my father said to me, "You lost me at the word blockchain." Okay, so I had to explain to him. The blockchain is just an underlying technology. On its own, it's meaningless. Okay. Do you remember in the old days you had a ledger? You'd be going on a mission on a boat somewhere. We'd sign a deal, and there'd be a piece of paper, a ledger, and then the ledger became a balance sheet, income statement, and then Price Waterhouse and KPMG and the digital world. But there was always one ledger. You'd sign off the annual accounts or monthly accounts, one ledger. The blockchain is a distributed ledger, which means a record of me selling you something or you buying something from me is a block, but it's confirmed by millions of computers around the world. There's no single record. There are millions of records, which means that activity, that buy or sell activity, is irreversible, irrefutable, non-changeable, and forever, that little block. And then you sell it to someone else, another block, another block. Millions of these things go on. So what? So what? Block, a distributed ledger. What does that mean? Well, crypto couldn't exist without a blockchain, without the blockchain. You couldn't have digital currencies that we buy and sell because you can't touch them without an absolute 100% digital confirmation stored on millions of computers of that activity. So the first manifestasi of the blockchain is cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. The second is non-fungible tokens. I'm not really going to go into that, but it's a certificate of digital ownership of something, like a digital photograph. We couldn't have that without the blockchain. But the new manifestation is our decentralized autonomous organizations. And you can't have this sort of organization where no one meets each other and everything's automatic without the blockchain confirming every move. And my knowledge of this stuff is about what I've told you, okay? It's no deeper than that. But the idea hit me. I said, why am I trying to raise money for all these political parties in South Africa? Where I give them money and then maybe they feed back what they're doing, maybe they don't, maybe some are spending it on, you give money to charity, you just know you've done a good deed and hope for the best. The same with political parties. You give money and hope for the best. But with the DAO on the blockchain, you have 100% transparency on every single decision and every single activity that happens. That's why governments don't like blockchain. It's transparent. You can't hide. There's no corruption. But
and it's
if you sign up you can sign up for the movement.
Mm.
And you could also click a button that says join Discord. And all Discord is like Slack or WhatsApp, but it's a bit more of a sophisticated version. So I'd advise you join Discord, and just it's a bit clunky to start, but look at it and see what's going on and see the discussion. And there are different channels. There's treasury, governance, projects, campaigns. And you could put forward a campaign as a member. There's no cost, by the way. You put forward a campaign to say, let's create a comic book series to educate the people of South Africa on why they should vote, why their vote matters. That gets put out as a proposal with a budget, and then all 14,000, 100,000, 14 million members vote. And if it's votes to go forward, it gets funded by the Treasury, and it happens.
And is anyone making money out of it?
No, not for profit, zero. But, you know, I'm a businessman. So all the work I'm doing on this, all the learning lessons, in a year or two, I'm going to create a global one that is for profit. But this new South Africa is not for profit. This is to save the country. And you can, by the way, you can, for anyone that knows blockchain, you see where every cent goes. So there's no hiding.
Rob, where did everything go wrong according to you? Because this was the party that was supposed to save oppressed people. This was the party that was supposed to free people from oppression, to create an environment in which they can rise and develop.
It went wrong in the original, yeah.
But it doesn't look like to me, it looks like they're just a bunch of thieves.
They are a bunch of thieves.
To the top and steal the most.
They are a bunch of thieves, 100%. But where did that problem come from? In the original constitution of the ANC 100 years ago. If you look at the original constitution, it didn't have within it any elements of how to govern, whether to be capitalist or communist, you know, how to effect, you know, meritocracy. The 15 principles of newsouthafrica.org were never the 15 principles of the original ANC. All the ANC was designed to do was remove apartheid and take power. But from taking power onwards, they never had a plan. And the ANC, it began well only because all the evil elements of the ANC, the communists, the unions, you know, the EFF types, who are evil, all three of those. Mandela had so much emotional power that he overruled them when they tried to implement, you know, destructive elements into the economy. He was able to overrule them. And the economy was growing, and there was money, everyone was getting jobs. But then the rot started to kick in, you know. And I know I say the cabinet are useless, and they are. But you look 2 levels down, and there are little groups of, you know, people reading off the Soviet playbook. We need to appoint cadres in every element of decision-making, and that's been implemented. So we've got BEE, which is theft, and in most cases, inefficient for the economy. We've got these cadre deployments, which is fundamentally evil. You've got incompetent people trying to siphon money out. You've got, you know, expropriation without compensation coming down the pipe. You know, it's huge elements of evil and destruction, and it's all about stealing. It's about stealing.
And if you catch them, they just get redeployed and start something new.
You've got
like
members.
You can't stop them.
You've got members of the ANC who are under criminal charges in the running for positions of power. I mean, what does that tell you? That's just...
You mentioned the good and the bad part about the ANC a little earlier. I must admit, I believed Cyril Ramaphosa as part of the good side of the ANC up until the other day. But I'm battling to believe that at the moment anymore. What's your view on that?
So he may be of good intentions, but he's absolutely useless and spineless and a pathetic human being, and he should not be president. He's the weakest, most useless, spineless person that ever got a position of power. And that's me being polite. He's useless. And, you know, his legacy is going to be the president under whose reign the lights went out in South Africa. He's done nothing.
Some people say, yeah, but look at the Zondo Commission. Look at the things starting to happen. And they believe that something is really starting to happen. But do you think something is happening?
So I spoke to a senior executive, the CEO of one of the biggest financial institutions. I'm not going to mention his name. He's a friend of mine. I haven't mentioned him in this story yet. And I said, what is business doing? He said, Rob, we do a lot. We go to these meetings with Cyril and the cabinet and NEDLAC and all these commissions and everything, but it's always behind closed doors. And what happens is, and they've tried it with me, when I insulted Fikile Mbalula, Minister of Transport, called him a moron, I've never met him. He called me the next day and he said, hi, Rob, Fikile here. I believe you have some grievances. Let's meet. So, okay. So my business buddy and I, Nick Ferguson, fly up to Joburg. We meet with Fikile. He's got his two guys there taking notes, blah, 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 shake hands, take a photograph, bang. Nothing happened. And that's what Cyril has conned the business community. He meets them, he nods his head, he says intelligent things, he agrees, and then nothing happens. And it was all obviously clear. Do you remember when Gwede Mantashe, who's a communist, stands up and says, we need to create Eskom 2.0. And then Cyril goes to the communist conference and Gwede announces Eskom 2.0. You know, we've stuffed up Eskom 1.0. Now we want to do Eskom 2.0. I mean, how stupid can you be? And Cyril says publicly, oh, it's not a bad idea. So that's Cyril. That underlines his pathetic uselessness. Instead of saying to Gwede, that's a stupid idea, forget it, which it is, he says, oh, that's not a bad idea. He's nice to everyone. He's pathetic. He's just pathetic. He may be good, but he's just useless. So I don't know. And people say, well, if we didn't have Cyril, we'd have the evil RET faction. My view is bring them on. I don't care who wins December 10th. I don't care who's running the ANC. Yeah. Bring out the worst. Just show us the most evil ones of all.
And let's get rid of the bastards.
And let's get rid of them. All of us, all South Africans. Let's face the evil.
I've got a live show every morning, and I call them the mock Mura.
The mock Mura, exactly. Let's get the real Mura. But I've had enough of, you know, it's everybody's trying not to upset the apple cart, and everyone's not saying what they mean. You know, we're just going like this into a nosedive.
I understand what you say. Listen, we have mentioned the Freedom Front Plus and the DA and some of the other parties that we think could stay on in our new government. Let's talk about civil organizations. I'm specifically thinking of organizations like AfriForum, Solidariteit, your good friend Adrian Basson, and someone like Max de Pre believes that they are bad, ultra right-wing.
Max and Adriana stupid. I mean, let's put it that way. And I'm being polite to them. I mean, they're just idiots. AfriForum has become a pan-South African force for good. Extraordinary what they're doing. I mean, they don't, you know, they may have started off as an Afrikaans representative organization, then became more of a white, and now they are working across the board of all colors and all races, and they do a very, very good job. So chapeau to them. And you haven't mentioned Action Society, which is Ian Cameron.
Yes.
You know, he fronted up to that complete idiot, Becky Clearly, and didn't stand down, you know, and showed Becky Clearly for what he is, just useless and stupid. These organizations are superb. You know, we should fund them and help them and keep them going. So, you know, to Max and Adrian, grow up and wake up, you know.
So we need organizations like that.
Yes, desperately.
In South Africa, and specifically working in a democratic way, using the democracy and not breaking down.
So newssouthafrica.org is one of those, I suppose. It's a positive activist organization working within the rules. And
the same with Outa and others that we desperately need in a country like this. So we are gonna let me just kill this here. We're gonna see the demise of South Africa. We're gonna see the killing of South Africa, and we have to stand up again. And we say that the private sector should take over from there. How do you see the future from the moment that we have to rise above the ashes?
So let's say we get a DA-led coalition in charge. The first thing they've got to do is, sell off or privatize the state-owned enterprises, because the primary area of corruption are the state-owned enterprises. Eskom, Transnet. I mean, if there's anything left of them by the time we get to 2024, that's step number one. Step number two is we've got to deregulate the economy. I mean, there's a rule for everything. If you really aren't that smart, you study political science at university, okay? You know my views on this. The only degrees worth doing are medicine, engineering, finance, accounting, and maybe law. But to study political science at university, you've got to be a loser. I really believe that. And I mean, we don't need political scientists. You do that in your spare time. So And the reason I'm a bit disparaging about lawyers is the law profession is self-perpetuating. The more laws, the more lawyers. The more legal issues, the more law firms. So it's a sort of negative. They don't create any wealth. They don't create any benefit to society other than opining on laws. So, but we need lawyers, and they've been fighting a good fight, by the way, for us to save this country. The judiciary is one of the last elements of the pillars of democracy that's kind of stayed strong. So we need to deregulate the economy. There are just too many rules and too many regulations. And Donald Trump did a lot of things right, by the way. And the one thing I liked the most of when he was going to be elected, he said, if anyone wants to introduce a new law, they have to get rid of 2 existing laws first. That's how you deregulate. We need to do the same. So, there are a lot of quick fixes which will make a difference. And there are a lot of foreigners that want to invest in this country. There's a lot of money waiting for change that will pour into South Africa. And I know almost by name, a lot of the companies and individuals who would invest, they're not doing it right now because of over-regulation, black empowerment, BEE, EWC, things like that, over-regulation. You lift those things, money pours in, more people get jobs, industries grow, economic growth exceeds population growth, which it doesn't at the moment.
Okay.
We're going backwards right now.
We're going so fast backwards, it feels like.
That's terrible.
But yeah, it is. Listen, sir, just for a last thought, the other day I was, one of those nocturnal moments when you cannot sleep and there's nothing else to do. So I sat and played a little bit around on my computer. So I put together a coalition cabinet for a new South Africa.
Lovely. Please send it to me.
I'm going to
do that.
Yeah, yes.
I love that.
I'm gonna tell you a couple of names quickly, and then we can maybe just end off with this. I put Thuli Madonsela on as president, not because she's a good president, or she would make a good president, but because the people like her, and they like the values she stands for.
Okay, I vote for that.
The better president would be Ellen Zille, but I put her as vice president so that she can advise Thuli
That's
Madonsela how to be a good president.
I love that.
So
Love
Helen
that,
does the work. Thuli's, like in the previous dispensation when we had a ceremonial state president.
Yeah, President, Prime Minister kind of thing.
And the Prime Minister was doing the work. Okay. So I put Flip Base on finances, not because he's really financial.
He's good. Perfect.
But he's a organizer and he can bowl. I took Ronald Lamola and kept him at Justice. Ian Cameron is Minister of Police.
Me too.
Pieter Groenewald as Minister of Defense. Cyril Ramaphosa can stay on and be the Minister of what is it?
Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, it's all he's good for.
That's buitelandse sake. So you can be. So you have the same thoughts as I there. And for Internal Affairs, Corneille Mulder of the Freedom Front Plus.
Superb.
I'm keeping Naledi Pandor at Health. And then there's a couple of names that I think we can still take away that I'm not going to go to now. I'll put Dirk Herman on as a Minister of Labour. And then Openbare Werke, if it is necessary, we can put Gayton McKenzie on. Because even if you don't like the guy, it looks like he can get some things done.
He's the one guy that can take on the mafia. He can rip the mafia out of this country.
Yes.
He'll do a very good job there.
And then I'll take Bongani Baloyi because I think it's the only politician in Action SA that's really worth being a politician. And
those are good names.
And I put him in charge of taking away all these state-owned enterprises and give us a new dispensation. How does that sound?
And what about Kusum Kalyan, head of mining? And I'd put Siv Ngesi in charge of sports, culture, and media.
I can go with that as well.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like, listen, we must get together before the fall of the ANC and put together the cabinet and give it to the people in power so that they can listen to us.
Isaac, it's a great honor being on your show, and I really, really appreciate it. So
thank you very much. It was an honor speaking to you. Hopefully we speak in future again.
100%.
Greatness.
Tot ziens, and thank you.
Nuuspod, die tuiste vir Afrikaanse stories agter die nuus.